Hey everyone. So today I'm here to discuss policy change and coupling. I suppose all of us are speaking on the same subject matter, but with slightly different content. Therefore, it is my hope not to bore you, but to present a little information on a subject that I actually dealt with quite a bit this past year. So the mountain behind the background I felt was befitting for policy and reform simply because it sometimes is a challenge with both good and bad views, takes some time to see a different outcome and oftentimes feels like an uphill battle. So without further ado, please listen to change, coupling, tight, loose, normative, coercive, and mimetic. What does it all mean? And please save all of your questions until the end. And for those of you watching Wimbledon, quiet please. Thank you. So the next slide here are IGCs. This is the targeted subject matter for this assignment. I'll take you through a series of both legal and local policies, how these policies were implemented, whether this information falls under coercive, mimetic, or normative with policy development, and then what behaviors were markedly observed in terms of loosely and tightly coupled characteristics. There is a final piece that I will present, but I'm saving the best for last. So we shall begin here with the legal aspects of policy reform. In the state of Texas, legislatures vote on agenda items concerning a multitude of laws, concerns, and demands, etc. Education is most certainly on the forefront of the political minefield where legislators determine the fate or life of each item. The Senate has been leading the charge on the IGC's issue for some time. The bill has been reauthorized 3 times since its birth in 2015 as SB 149, was amended in 2017 as SB 463, and finally in 2019 it was amended as SB 213. The first enacted with SB 149 in 2015, individual graduation committees, IGC, allow the students the option to graduate even though they've not passed all of their EOC exams. A student who has failed the EOC graduation requirements for no more than two out of the number they must take may receive a Texas high school diploma if the student has qualified to graduate by means of an individual graduation committee IGC determination. So that's from TEA. The update is pretty phenomenal. It was on May 17th, 2019, this past May. They passed to extend the IGCs to September 1st, 2023. The extension, it was set to expire September 1st, 2019, but they extended it for a few more years. So that's a wonderful positive there. So it just takes you through up here the Senate bills, the Texas Education Code, the Texas Administration Code for both STAR exams and for the tax examinations. Yes, tax. We still do have some students that have not passed or have not graduated due to not passing those tax exams. And then obviously the TASB portion is the letter that all superintendents received describing that if their district needed to, change anything in their graduation requirements, they were going to have to do a board resolution to amend that policy or do policy revision in their FMH local. So I just wanted to note that. Okay, so we're going to move on to the legal aspects through ECISD. Now we're in the district policies, and they're a direct branch from the trunk of the Texas State Senate. These legal policies are formulated from the Texas Association of School Boards, or TASB, where our state Board of Education and TASB board members conduct sessions to create both local and legal policies for school districts to adopt into practice. School districts hold the autonomy to create local policies that they deem appropriate for their district as a form of governance. However, not all districts choose to do so. Here we have EIF Legal that comes directly from the Texas Education Code 28.025, discussing individual graduation committees and the breakdown of the IGC appropriate timelines, curriculum requirements, and additional requirements that the IGC must perform, as well as information for English learners, students new to the state of Texas, and special education students. This was instated into the high schools for graduating seniors that did not meet the requirements for an IGC or for STAR EOC requirements of passing all five graduation, passing all five EOCs for graduation. Most often in my experience, I have found that students usually fail English 1 or English 2 simultaneously. They'll fail one their freshman year, one their sophomore year, and they're just stuck not being able to pass those English exams even when they go and they do the retests. Or they fail one of the English exams, English 1 or English 2, and they also fail the U.S. history exam. So those two types of exams are really holding students back, and therefore, hence the reason for the IGC. The IGCs are a safeguard for students that are in jeopardy of not passing their state EOC exams, which excludes them from graduation. However, students who meet all course requirements, pass all but 2 EOCs, attend school regularly, and are not a discipline issue, are eligible to participate in an IGC project. Typically, projects were given for us 2 months out, starting in January. They ended in March. However, in rare cases, a senior has been given an extension through basically the day before graduation, which happened this past year, to complete that IGC so that they can be part of commencement. The communication piece for this is crucial as students forget to do the IGCs. They just get busy. It's the last thing on their mind. Should be the first thing, but kind of the last thing. Money is spent on graduation regalia parties. Families come to celebrate from far away, and for many of these students, they are first to graduate in their families. So our support on the local ISD side is to help them and the parents navigate the labyrinth of school courses and graduation requirements. Also through the local side is EIF Local. The only piece to EIF Local is very much driven by the requirements from the district and the state, and basically says that the student has to complete the courses required by district in addition to those mandated by the state in order to graduate. However, the resolution to consider alternative graduation requirements, the school district was guided by the letter from TASB. That resolution stated if your district's FMH local requires the students demonstrate satisfactory performance on all state assessments in order to participate in commencement activities, a board resolution or policy revision must be enacted. And so that I explained in the slide before, or 2 slides before, but the resolution was written by the school board with district legal associates and state policy consultants, and they adopted the information from the state and provides what proficiency standards must be met through local IGC. CMN policy development, coercive, mimetic, and normative. I liked putting this into the piece that helped me kind of frame what those were like as far as what I was seeing and how they were implemented into our district and which form of policy they fell under. I definitely think one stands out more than the others, which is mimetic. Learning through imitation. I definitely feel like through everything we do on this IGC project, it was top down, given to us from the state through TEC, TASB, TAC. It was put into legal policy, local policy, and then obviously TASB to resolution for our district. So we learn through imitating what the state standards are set for us. And then the second one is coercive, if I were going in order, coercive, forceful persuasion. I call that the voluntold piece. State policies are through that in the form of TASB, the TASB letter to the board resolution, and then local policy was taken from state policy. None of this was a collaborative piece amongst anyone in the school district except perhaps the board resolution. And then the normative piece, the third, which is called following the norm, it's definitely state mandated policies, district it equals district compliance. And then local policies allowed for district to have the autonomy with IGC meetings and reviews. So that's kind of, I definitely think we fall within this category. There are definitely pieces in here from each one, but so observed behaviors, a blended relationship. I see both. I see tightly and loosely, more tightly than anything. It's a beautiful marriage of sorts, these two. In some cases, there's a definitive line drawn in the sand where a policy is either one or the other. In this instance, there is one that is more dominant, but has some underlying features from the other. For example, the IGC policy, as it stands, is mostly tightly coupled. It has both legal and local policies that are happy together and cannot exist without each other. And local policies would not exist without the legal and so forth. The school district is good at letting principals know what information needs to be presented to staff, and principals are responsible for the implementation or building of committees to help the implementation phase. And there are district-wide procedures that all secondary campuses follow in order to have seamless graduation for students graduating under an IGC. Those graduation committees are formed on each campus. Each campus is responsible for making sure that those seniors are flagged from the counselor and the principal over those students, making sure that they meet the eligibility requirements for an IGC. They are pulled in, and meetings follow. We form an IGC committee, those that can prove that student knows, and we can hold that student accountable for proficiency in that area of whatever test they failed, and they sign off, we sign off. We have parents come back in, we talk about things, provided that the student has good attendance, has good discipline, has a good grade and is passing classes and really working really hard. This IGC is to help them bridge that gap between failing a state exam and being able to graduate. So we want them to walk that bridge and cross over in commencement. The loosely coupled items are not unusual to ECISD or any other school district for this matter, and all school districts have a checks and balance system where human error can occur. However, the Lone Ranger approach to this mistake was costly for the rest of us and could have ended up much worse than it did, with allowing for different tests to be taken and for giving an ineligible student an IGC, which is part of the loosely coupled written piece on the slide. And furthermore, the communication is lacking within the district. Some principals are good at getting this information out and preparing administrators, counselors, and teachers with this information, especially those on the IGC committee. Communication is key factor in creating a more tightly coupled organization, but oftentimes that isn't the case. However, in this, I do believe that this is a more tightly coupled operation with IGCs. Lastly, this is Shelby's story. This is Shelby Sparks. She was set to graduate in 2012. The IGC was created for students like Shelby who did not give up on trying to pass state exams for STAR or TAKS, or for whatever reason was not able to pass. She was not able to pass after 12 attempts on the math portion. Not passing this exam and taking it numerous times was just super frustrating, time consuming, and slightly embarrassing because Shelby was a smart kid. Her mother was a former special education director in our district and a compliance officer. She knew that the law was going to expire in 2019. She called Shelby and told her a little about the IGC and then left the decisions up to Shelby. Shelby wrote a letter to the administration in 2018 stating that she was not allowed to walk the stage in 2012 because of one exam that was holding her back from receiving her high school diploma. So in fact, Shelby was not alone. There were about 50 students at Permian High School that this affected. Shelby is kind of the poster child for IGCs in our district, opening the doors for so many others that were unable to pass a TAKS or a STAR exam and not graduate. Students have benefited greatly from this IGC process because they are now able to move up in positions for what's written on a piece of paper and says, I have earned a high school diploma. Local businesses have stated that they too benefit because many of these students were good at their jobs but unable to move up the ranks, so to speak, because there were written policies and unwritten rules in the workforce that created, barriers for